We are live. I am not ready, clearly. This is, we're going to double this as a get ready to paint with me type videos, like the makeup videos. Get ready with me to paint. And I started getting ready like 3 hours ago. Anyway, welcome everybody. Tonight I'm going to be working in acrylics. I was just notified by Joseph that the link is the old link for the reference photo. You can get this reference photo. Just go to patreon.com/Lachri. You do not need to be a member. I think it's the second post down. Second or third post down, just scroll down. The reference photo's there. I screwed that up. I don't have time or the desire to fix it right now. Have to fix that later. So, okay. I'm kind of surprised I did not get a message from Nick saying that they could hear me walking around as I was getting ready. I turned the live stream to go on and realized I was missing pieces or things I needed out of the other room. So let me just clean up my razor blade. Not for, oh my gosh, it is just going to be one of those nights. Luckily, it's acrylics. Acrylics are easy. So the first thing I've got to do is clean up my palette. So this is a it's technically that stay wet type palette. It's just the container for one of those, but I don't actually use the stay wet type. I don't like those. This is a glass palette, a new wave palette, fits perfectly inside. If I want to keep all of this paint wet, I can keep it wet for like a month. If not the parts that are mixed, but like the clumps of paint. If I take a paper towel, get it wet, and just leave it sealed in this box, it has a lid, so it's kind of like a Tupperware, which is amazing. Unfortunately, that is not what I did. So I am going to, I need to remove, some of this is still wet. I really only need a couple of, like that's all dry. So what I'll do, the parts that are completely dry, if I just mist it with water, it will scrape right up. Like super easy. You can scrape it without water, but why make life more difficult than it needs to be? Let's just do this. Get all this paint that I do not need out of the way. I don't even remember what the last thing was I painted on this one. That white's probably going to be thick, so we're just going to get rid of everything. And then because some of that was wet, I'm actually going to wipe that down with a paper towel just to start with a nice clean palette. And I do not have a trash can in here to throw this out in. Where are you going? Give me 1 second. It can go in here. I told you I wasn't ready. Like weirdly not so. I actually blame Gibson for this because he didn't want to do his business. Yes, you. He's looking at me. You can't see on that screen. Don't look at me and lick your lips. So that set me back a good 10 minutes trying to get that taken care of. So everyone, tell Gibson he's a bad boy. Yes, terrible. I wish you could see from the angle he's looking at me because it's really adorable. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down. Oh, look, and Rick is going to reward you for your bad behavior in just a moment here. Let me just clean this off first. Okay, good enough. And I should have waited to throw the other paper towel out because now I need to go do that. Almost ready to start. I mean, at least now you know exactly how I clean my palette when it really is dirty. Okay, and before we start, we have from Rick said, need to show the boys some love, which basically means let's reward Gibson for his terrible behavior earlier. I mean, he's not that bad. But, you know, I like to joke. Do you boys want a super chat? Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to elbow you in the nose. I'm not that mad at you. I'm not actually mad. Someone's going to get mad that I'm making jokes about being mad. Can't be mad at a puppy. That was a little rough, boy. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Rick. You were awesome. Yes. You boys lay down. Lay down. Gibson, lay down. Down. Okay. Okay. Palette is clean. So we are getting somewhere now. The colors that I'm going to be using for tonight, I don't even have my reference photo. I'm telling you, I am just behind. Come on, Gmail. I emailed it to myself. I just need to save it now. And it's going to take an hour because why wouldn't it? That has just been like my drama of everything taking too long basically started last night while I load this. I'll tell you that story. I go to package stuff. One of the things that I needed to ship, well, first, those of you waiting for your Patreon stuff for like the last 2 months, those got shipped today, which really means tomorrow because they turned it into another everyone take the day off holiday. I don't mind holidays. I just hate when things close for said holidays. But anyway, my computer, are you not connected to the internet? Because it would be lovely if you downloaded the thing. We're just going to chat because it is not loading. What is going on? Again, while I'm setting this up, I will tell you the story of this. So I'm going to set out, I get the stamps, postcards, all of that is done. I go to send, I had 3 paintings from live streams I needed to send out. One of them, apparently the auction failed, but it didn't really, because I know the person who got it, and I know she would have told me if she didn't want that. Like, very bizarre, and so I'm trying to figure out what happened to my website, I spent an hour, waste an hour on that. Finally decide, you know what, I will deal with that tomorrow. And I'll just get these other 2 sent out. Get those packaged. I go to print and my printer would not connect to the internet. And this is not wanting to load this image. So we're just going to tell you the story while I wait for this to download. I need my reference photo. So I'm going back and forth between this computer that I'm fighting with now for some who knows what reason. Oh, we're getting somewhere. Yeah, it updated it. And that is apparently the problem. It's trying to show me news. No, I don't need... Don't show me any of this. Oh, I almost swore. Crap. I don't know how to make this go away. Nope. How do I make this little live Major League Baseball that I give 0 craps about go away? Because apparently whatever you updated with are slowing me down. Is slowing, whatever, grammar. It's not what you're here for. So anyway, I thought it must have been, it was after 2 in the morning. By the time I got that settled, I think it was about 2:30. I still had to take my shower, get ready for bed. I get ready for bed. I'm laying there. It's like 3:30. I got my eye mask on. I mean, I'm ready to fall asleep. I was like, crap, I forgot to do the email newsletter. So I had to get myself out of bed. I've already taken melatonin, so I'm getting loopy. You know, very sleepy at this point. So if there were some serious mistakes in that email newsletter, I am blaming the melatonin and 3:30 in the morning. Finally, like I got up, got that done. Where's my image? I just saved it. It should be. We're gonna have one of those days. Where did you save to? I don't even know where you're saving photos to now. Whatever, I got it up. We are good to go. So yeah, it has just been since last night fighting with, like, I don't even know. I don't know why we're having dramas. We have from Kirsten said, for the pups, you can hold Gibson if need be. Do you boys want another? Well, I guess I don't even, that's a yes. We're going to take that as a yes. Okay. Okay. Oh, you got chatters. You got the chatter teethers? Greyhounds are so funny. They, you know, you think of a Chihuahua when they're really cold and the whole head is vibrating. But that's what Greyhounds do. Gibson's really big with it. When they get excited for something, the whole head chatters. So funny. Thank you so much, Kirsten. Okay. Go lay down. Don't give me sad puppy eyes. That's emotional manipulation, sir. You're really good at it. Okay. And also, it was Dolphin Soul's fault for not reminding me. She's supposed to check my work and get back to me. And apparently, she failed to let me know I didn't even have the right link. Actually, she likes to get back to me like 2 minutes before the live stream, so I'm trying to rush to fix it then. And we have another one from Oriole Beagle. You are being spoiled tonight. Want another super chat? Look at Gibson. You serious? Are you serious? Come on. Come get a super chat. Thank you, Oriole Beagle. Oh, you guys are getting so spoiled. Dolphin Soul thinks vacation is an excuse to not do her job. Her job that she was never like, she didn't apply for it. It was just assigned to her. Good boys. Okay, lay down. Let's get started on this painting. It is 12 minutes in and I have not picked up a paintbrush. Lay down. Lay down. Okay, I'm going to grab the paints. I think for this one, I'm going to use phthalo blue, white, and black. We'll keep that nice and simple. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk to you guys about is one of the biggest mistakes people make when they are starting with acrylic painting. So for anyone who is a beginner, and I'm missing my white paint. First step is losing your paint. Oh, there it is. So one of the things that people often do is they get their canvas and they draw the subject out first. That is wrong. It makes your life far more difficult than it needs to be. Could it work? Yes. Is it the most practical solution? No. It kind of rates up there to me with mowing your lawn with a pair of scissors. Like, there are easier ways to do this. So I've got my white paint. Second tip, real quick, these big bottles, for most people, you're not going to paint enough that you're going to go through them that fast unless you're painting really large. These size are pretty ideal. Liquitex Basics are my favorite acrylics, not because they're cheap. That's just a crazy added bonus considering everything I use is so expensive. But with acrylics, I love Liquitex Basics. They have more of a matte finish, and that means the tracing and transfer paper method I'm going to show you works great, or charcoal pencil works great. A lot of the other acrylics that have a higher gloss to it, like Liquitex Heavy Body, Liquitex Soft Body, Goldens, like all of those, they're great paints, but because of the way that I work, and I'm trying to make this easier on all of us, this is like my absolute favorite paint. Okay, next, one of the things, big mistake I see people make, this is a common mistake, is not cleaning your brushes. That's dirty. I need to grab a clean one of that. Is using this sort of brush, these mop brushes, to apply the paint. I see videos like this a lot where they're just applying the paint that way. Can it work? Yes. You are wasting so much paint. These things absorb paint like crazy. You're not getting smoother blending because of using it. You're actually more likely, because these, even with the powder brushes that I use, the makeup brushes, you're still chancing having that shed like crazy. So let's readjust my mic because I'm a classy lady and that was getting uncomfortable. Anyway, if you try to apply paint with these, it's going to you're wasting just a ton of paint. Why waste the paint? Use a nice tack bristled filbert like this. This is perfect. That size is great. Even if I'm working on, well, if I'm working on a larger painting, like a big painting, I might go to a 2-inch, but that works for most things. These brushes absorb so much paint, but they're not actually getting that much paint on the canvas. The best use for these brushes is just to soften out your brush strokes. So kind of the reverse of that. These are just to get rid of those heavier brush strokes, make everything look soft and out of focus and nicely blended. That is what we're using these for. Never ever. And I don't have many never evers when it comes to paint. Like, I don't have a lot of really hard rules. Most of the time there's going to be exception for everything. For me, this is one of them. There is never an exception where I would myself or let a student use this to dip it in the paint and apply the paint to the canvas. I don't know who you are that in this economy that you've got the money to waste paint like that, but it hurts my soul. So let's not waste. And then it's so much work to clean these out. To get all of the paint out of these brushes, you want to talk about just why make more work for yourself? Be a normal human. Use a tack bristled filbert. Okay, canvas I'm using tonight. This is going to make my life a lot easier because it is so smooth. This is a watercolor canvas board, and it just means it's a really, really smooth canvas. As usual, I'm working on Fredrix. They are the only brand of canvas I use because I've had so many problems with other brands. And just for transparency, this video is sponsored by Fredrix. They provided me with the canvas that I'm using here, but they're already the only canvas that I used. Like, I started using them, I want to say around 2011, 2012 exclusively, and that's pretty much when I started a partnership with them. So it worked out really well because I had already sworn off all other brands. I normally won't do that with a brand like sponsorship where they want you to only use their product. They are the only company that I'll do that for. My glasses are really dirty. So anyway, moving on. The thing that's so great about this canvas is it's really, really smooth, which means all my blending is going to go really, like it's not going to be bumpy looking. If you're having a hard time getting smooth blending, getting fine detail, your canvas may be too rough. Now, an alternative to, if you don't have a canvas already that's super smooth, you can put a couple of coats, like 2-3 coats of gesso, let it dry in between, and then take maybe a 320 to right around there grit sandpaper and go over it. And that will sand it, just lightly go over it until it's nice and smooth. That can give you a smoother surface to make your life easier as well. Also, my camera has crapped out. Hold on one second. Easel. Let me deactivate. Activate. There we go. We are back. Are all my other... Looks like everything else is working. Okay. So the first thing we need to do on this is get our background. This is one of the next big mistakes that people often make with acrylic painting is they draw the subject out and they try to paint around it. That can give you a cool look if you're going for a more impressionistic look, that, you know, where you're letting your brush stroke show, then that can look really cool. But if you want a smooth look like what we're going to go with here, you don't have time with acrylics. Even using the fine mist sprayer, you don't have time to blend that out. Also, oh, there it is. I've been looking for this fine mist sprayer for like 2 weeks. I've been using my backup and I don't like my backup. So This is a fine mist sprayer. The link is in the video description. This will get, and a normal spray bottle won't work because the water droplets are too big. This will keep the paint wet as long as I need. So people are always asking about slow drying medium and different mixing mediums. I don't use any of those. I hate them. They gunk up the paint. I like nothing about them. This is really inexpensive. You just put water in it and this will give you everything. Like, this is all you need for all your blending. Also, I'm having a fungus gnat issue going on right now. We have had a lot. It's going to be one of those nights. Actually, it's going to be one of those weeks. We have had a lot of rain lately, and the fungus gnats are just loving it. I may have to put mosquito bites in my plant pots to take care of this if these fungus gnats keep up this bad. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to start by dipping my brush. As always, I am thinning my paint with water. There are videos out there telling you not to use water and how terrible it is. It's made up BS. It's a scare tactic. The number one mistake artists make: use water with your acrylic paints. We all do. That's how it's done. It doesn't, that video talking about the honeycomb structure and the binding and it's all BS made up crap. That video had to turn off the comments because she was being called out for the fact that it was BS crap. So you can use water with your acrylics. Golden's has done actual testing, not made up psychobabble, whatever she was talking about, where they show you could use like 90 to 95% water and it doesn't degrade the paint. Like it's fine. So you can go ahead and do that just fine. Now I'm going to start by, let's just get a medium mixture. I'm going to do this in 2 layers. I'm going to mix some black and some of my blue together. I just want to get a nice dark color, and I'm going to do 1 solid color on the canvas first. If I do this in 2 layers, it's going to make my life a lot easier because I'm not going to be dealing with brush strokes because you can see here how there's some strokes showing. This isn't straight black. Mine does have the blue mixed in with it. But this is going to help me so I'm not fighting the white of the canvas. So my next layer is going to look a lot smoother just because I've got a base, like I've already covered the white. So we're just going to get a layer on there. It doesn't matter if your color is perfect. If you use less black, if you go with more, just the blue color, it's going, God, this is such a pretty indigo color. It's going to be more streaky just because the blue is going to be more translucent. Your Mars Black, which is what I'm using here, that is a more opaque color. Making sure I've got that right side up. It doesn't really matter, but the back says Fredrix, and I hate when I paint it upside down. Again, it doesn't matter. It just personal annoyance. Now see how I've got brush strokes all over here? That is what I'm going to use the mop brush for. I don't need this to be perfectly smooth, but why not make my life a little bit easier? Actually, I do want to get a bit more black at the bottom though, because it started to get a little bit light down there. There we go. So what I'm going to do, I can mist this, but if it starts to dry, just take my fine mist sprayer, just a little mist, done. And I'm going to take my mop brush, get my drawing out of the way. And I'm just going to do little half circles. My goal here, I don't want to push hard. If I'm getting a lot of paint on this brush, I'm pushing too hard. The goal is to get rid of the brush strokes. I often say I'm blending something out, but that's not really an accurate term. I'm just softening things out. Any blending, like if I'm trying to mix 2 colors together, that should have been done with the other brush. This is just to soften some of these brush strokes out. And when I get too much paint on there, I'm just going to wipe it off on a paper towel. This only works if it's clean and dry. This gets wet, it'll create brush strokes instead of taking them away. And it could be wet from paint, it could be wet from water. Either way, I always recommend having a lot of the mop brushes. And I call it mop brushes. This one's actually a powder brush, which I recommend. Art mop brushes shed like crazy. I don't know what they're doing different that the makeup people aren't. The makeup ones are cheaper too. It makes no sense. But I have no idea what the reasoning is behind that, other than if they mark something for art, they charge up the wazoo. I think that might be the first time I've ever said wazoo. New word in my vocabulary. So when I rinse this, all I have to do is get the tip of the bristles wet, and I'm just going to work that on my paper towel until that comes out dry, so it's ready to go. But I've also got clean brushes ready to go. Now when you pick these up, this one's Wet n Wild. This one actually does shed. We're going to put that one away. I hate that one. Shocker, Wet n Wild makes crap. But you want this clean and ready to go. And here's a new brush. I like these Real Technique brushes. These are my favorite because the handle is so lightweight. If the handle is a heavier weight, like this one has a really heavyweight handle, it's harder to keep a loose, light hand. These work better at the lighter. You want as long of a handle as you can get and as lightweight of a handle as you can get. That gives you much better results. But I pick these up whenever, I have them always on my wish list in Amazon, and if the price is ever a little lower, I'll pick it up then. Or if you go to if you're in the US and you've got a TJ Maxx or a Ross or one of those sort of discount stores, sometimes in the makeup section, they'll have powder brushes that are really cheap. Again, just watch, try to get as long of a handle. This one's even shorter than I like. If I could find longer, I would use it, but find as long of a handle as you can and as lightweight. Again, this one, it's nice for makeup, but it is, it's heavy. Okay, now I'm going to use the hairdryer to dry this to speed things along. Common misconception is that the hairdryer will cause, or the heat from the hairdryer will cause the color to shift. Not true at all. What you're seeing happen is just because it's happening faster. It seems like the color is shifting. It's no longer glossy, especially with Liquitex Basics because it has a more matte finish. I mean, it's not matte, but more matte than others. It looks like it's getting darker. The only color, the only exception is teal. That tends to actually dry darker. So you just know that when you mix the color, make it a little bit lighter than you want the end result to be. But with every other color, what happens is when you remove the water, it's no longer reflective and the color just looks a little bit more dull. And a lot of people mistake that thinking the color shifted. The color did not shift. When it is dry and you put a high gloss varnish over it, it brings that color back so it looks wet again. It looks exactly like it did when it was applied. So there's no color shift. Using heat makes no difference. It just saves time. Don't use a heat gun though. A heat gun gets too hot. Acrylics are a plastic. If it gets too hot, it can start to bubble. So we don't want heat guns on that. That can cause some serious issues, but a normal hairdryer you are fine with unless it's overpowered. I did have one, I think it was more of a malfunctioning one, but it used to get so hot. Like you couldn't use it on your hair. It would fry your hair, burn your head, but it could cause some problems with getting too hot on the canvas. So this though is like a normal Conair cheapy, and I can go really close to it. It's never gonna get too hot that it would cause any damage. Now, when you're layering like this, you need to make completely sure that this is completely dry before you go onto it, because if it's a little bit, like it feels dry to the touch, but it's not completely dry, when you go on top of it, it can lift those previous layers. So make sure that that is dry all the way. Okay, and you also want to make sure it's cool because acrylic paint dries fast enough. We don't need to be working on a hot surface. So we'll let that set for just a moment there. Now I am going to be using the same colors, but now I'm going to be adding white. So what I'm going to do first, I don't want to just rinse this in my water because I've got a big chunk of paint on it from mixing here. It would just dirty my water faster. Now another myth that is very common with acrylic paints is that you cannot, move my water somewhere else. You can't, or you need to keep your water clean. That's on the floor now. And it's behind a thing. But that you need to keep your water super clean. This isn't watercolor. Your mixing water does not need to be super clean. It can look like mud and it's not going to make any difference. But I am going to wash as much, like wipe as much paint as I can off onto the paper towel, mainly because I don't want to be dumping thick, like it kind of turns sludgy if you get too much in there, and I don't really want to dump that down my sink. So, and it just makes it so much easier to clean this if you wipe it first on a paper towel. Okay, next I'm going to use that same brush. I've got a mop brush ready to go. Actually, let's get a secondary mop brush because I'm probably going to need two for this time through. Nope, that one will work if I can grab it. Yeah, this one will work. So this one has it's kind of a medium weight handle, but it's a little bit short. I'm just not in love with that one, but we're going to make it work. Okay, so I'm going to start with blue and a little bit of white, actually a lot of white for the top. What I want is this upper corner to be a lot lighter and to move darker as we go down. And the great thing is that this now I'm not fighting the white of the canvas, and that is just going to make my life so much easier as I go through. So we'll do kind of a U shape coming from this way. I'm going to wipe some of this paint off. We're going to throw some blue. I don't want a bunch of black mixed in with this yet, because that mixing in with the white that I have would turn very gray. Not the end of the world, but if you don't want a lot of gray, keep the black away from it. Again, grab some more blue. Now you can do your base layer where you're fading colors like this and just plan on doing a second layer over it. That works well too. The trick is to do at least 2 layers. If you try to get this perfect blend for your first layer, it's going to be streaky. It's just not going to look amazing. I need some more blue. If this starts to dry, I've got my fine mist sprayer, the one I have not yet thrown on the floor. Well, in the last few minutes anyway. And yeah, let's go ahead and add some of that. That can keep this wet for as long as I need. I can work slow, and this is one of the problems that a lot of people have when they're slower painters. They complain about acrylics drying too slow, so they want to use a slow dry medium. You don't need to. You add like just water. Water is going to let you keep it wet for hours if you need to. I say that, but I'm not over exaggerating. I actually have kept a painting wet. It was a big, I think it was a 30 by 40 inch. And I was doing this really elaborate scene with the blended clouds, and I kept that wet for hours. It came out beautiful. So I just want to lightly, and you don't want to mist and mist and mist. If it starts to run, you've got way too much water. If this gets too much water, it's not going to blend well either. It starts getting streaky. Now as I move my way down, I don't have white in my brush because I was working on the blue area. I'm going to switch and start pulling black. So I'm going to make mine much more dramatic than the reference photo. Some more blue. Too much blue. Let's get a little bit more black in there. You can't really tell on the camera, but it just all looks dark down here. I want a nice gradient there. See, I'm using the brush. Any mixing, any actual blending between colors, I'm using this brush. The mop brush is just going to be to soften out brush strokes. So I'm going to do little half circles. And look how nice and soft that is. Now, as I start to get a little bit too much paint on there, it is creating some, I don't know if you can see, oh, it froze again. Hold on. Ooh. Yep, you are definitely, why are we going to have one of those nights? We're back. I'm glad I caught that before I got too far when I missed that again. But I'm starting to get a few little blotches. So I'm going to take that brush and wipe some of the paint off, try to get that as dry as possible and get back, soften those out, get little half circles. Oops, the edge has a lot of paint on it, so it's catching and dragging into the canvas. So we'll just soften that out. Oh, itchy eye, sorry. Just softly going in all different directions. I don't care if you can kind of see streaks of light and dark, but I do want them to be soft. That's what I'm going for here. Oh, I'm liking this. Now now that I've been blending down in the dark areas, I don't want to take this brush, see how it has a dark on it? I don't want to take it and reblend up here because I would make a bunch of dark marks. So we're just going to leave that alone. If you needed to blend, if you're like, oh, I need to blend this a little bit more, switch to a clean brush. That's why you want to have that clean one ready to go all the time. Now we're going to go ahead and dry this. Did it freeze again? No, we're good. And this is the thing where people talk about that the color is shifting color. Think when you see somebody every day, you don't necessarily notice, let's say somebody's gaining weight or losing weight. If you see them every day, you don't notice a big change. If you haven't seen them in 2 weeks, you see them all at once, it's like, whoa, you look different one way or the other. That's kind of what's happening with the hairdryer. When people are letting it air dry, they're like, no, the color doesn't shift because it's happening so slowly. You don't realize it's looking different as it dries. When you use the hairdryer, it happens so quick. It's like, whoa, you changed. So same thing. I'm going to wipe the paper towel against the back because we're going to be drawing on it, and anything that's picked up and wet, I want off now. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna let that cool. Now, for those of you over on Patreon, you saw this video, well, it's there if you haven't seen it yet, showing you exactly how I use tracing and transfer paper, how I trace from a computer monitor. You could trace if you wanted to freehand in a sketchbook, you can trace from that, I do that too. And all I have to do now is tape that to my artwork. Give this a second, it's really hot. We'll get the transfer paper out while I wait for that to cool a little bit. Actually, let's clean this brush while I wait before that gets ruined. So same, just wiping the paint off and then clean in my water. Man, that paint had that brush had a lot of paint stuck in there. Okay, same thing with this one. I'm just gonna clean, let's see if I can move this a little bit. You can kind of see, there's my water. I'm just going to take the very tip of the bristles, let's see if I can get my hand out of the way, just the very tip there, and then work that in circles on the brush or the paper towel until that comes out clean. I may have to go grab some more paper towels though. Oh, maybe I'll be okay. Do that one more time. Now these brushes, if they get, because like I have some over there that I forgot about and didn't clean in time, all I have to do, I've got my brush cleaner, what is it, the Old Masters? Or Old Masters, the Masters, maybe it's just the Masters. That brush cleaner is amazing. And I can just use kind of warm water. I don't want to use too hot because you don't want to melt or loosen up the glue that's holding the bristles in there. But just warm water and lather that up really good, let it set, and then lather it and rinse it again. The brushes like these, that the tips are all, like I've got dried paint on them, they'll be completely back to normal after that. These are very easy to fix if you've only got paint on the tips. Okay. So now I am going to go ahead and tape that up right where I want it to be. Does anyone know what kind of shark this is? I do not. And I'm going to grab a piece of transfer paper. And I have links to all this in the video description if I did my job right. That's a big if though. I did put proper links though on the Patreon video. This is a really used one. I don't know if it's going to show up well. Let's find out. Yep, shows up just fine. So I'm just going to, now if you get these, like this one, you can see that it's ripped because sometimes you get it and it's this huge one big sheet. Rip it into smaller sections like this. Even if your painting is big, smaller sections and just move this around wherever you need. The tracing paper I want to be the same size as the project, but the transfer paper does not need to be. I'm just using the stylus. If you look up nail dotting tool on Amazon, it's the same thing and often cheaper than the ones made for art. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes it's cheaper. And I've got the line drawing is over on Patreon as well. That one is for free, along with the reference photo. So if you like a line drawing, that is available to you. But I do recommend, if you like the line drawings, don't use them forever. Try tracing the original reference photo. That you're going to learn more about and perfect your drawing skills from tracing that than tracing somebody else's tracing. So you just want to get in the habit of doing that as soon as possible. I mean, if you're a beginner and that makes it easier, go ahead. But after a few paintings, be tracing that on your own. Oh, yep, frozen again. Hold on one second. That is why. Let's see if I can. Oh, that might have actually been a bad idea. Let's see. I'll unplug and plug it back in. If that makes any difference. I still have no idea why sometimes that why does it just some days are terrible and other days are fine? Nick, if you notice that, can you text me? Let me turn my thing on. Can you actually text me? Because I know that one I should get the, oh yeah, all my links are apparently not working. That should get my attention. I'm trying to keep an eye on the camera, but I may miss it. We'll see. Okay. So now, same colors. If you decided you wanted your background to be purples, you could do this with purple, black, and white. You could do this magenta, black, and white, green, black, and white, whatever colors you want. But whatever colors you chose for your background are the same colors you want to use on your shark. He's in the water. That water is reflecting around him. His color would be grays and whites, really, in reality, some blacks. But that's why he's so blue, because of the water, just the way that that picks up. Let me see. But if you can text me instead of Discord, because the notification I think I'm more likely to see on text than I am on Discord, because that's more iffy. Okay, drink of water. Side note, I've been trying this new diet to give me energy and make me feel better, whatever. But one of the things I have to back off of is coffee and black or green tea, which are like what I live off of. So I'm cut my coffee down. I've been drinking Rubio's tea. It is weird, but good, and I'm getting super hooked on it. It's an herbal tea, but it's like so much flavor. That with honey, it is good. Like I'm getting to where I actually want it as much as I want coffee. So that's very exciting. And if you've not tried it, it's very weird at first, like a very nutty, like very odd. Anyway, move on, Lisa. No one cares. Actually, probably like 3 of you care. For those 3, you're welcome. We just bored everyone else so I could tell you about tasty tea. No, I can't have energy drinks at all. My heart cannot handle those. I would probably die. Okay, so this one's just a cheapie. Where is it? I don't know, just cheap. Seriously, Amazon. I don't like generic art products, except for paintbrushes. I love generic paintbrushes. I love how cheap they are. So if I ruin them, it's no big deal. But they work just as good as expensive ones I've bought. Like I don't see a big benefit in paying up the rear to get really expensive brushes for acrylics. For watercolor, absolutely. Watercolor is picky as heck. You need nice brushes. But with acrylics, cheap, like tack lumber sold filberts. Those are great. I love the Simply Simmons brushes. So that's about as close. Oh, this one's Master Touch, so it's generic too. Looks kind of the same. But you don't need to go all out. If you were, I've seen people that are so concerned about their, thinking that if they had better paintbrushes, their paintings would be better. No, that's not why your paints suck. Not just learning your color, other techniques. The brushes are probably not your problem. If you're using tack lumber bristled filberts, the brushes are probably not your problem. Okay. So I've got a mixture. This is gray. So I've got black and white and a little bit of my blue. And I'm just going to I'll have to put highlights over this. And just like the background, I can mist a fine mist sprayer over this if I need to keep it wet, if I want something to be blended more smoothly. Now, actually, I'm going to go ahead and paint over his gills because I want you to see how we can use that tracing and transfer paper again if you paint over something. You want to hang on to that tracing and transfer paper. Once you get your drawing traced out or drawn out, don't throw it out. That is still very useful. That's actually going to be a really dark fin, so I don't need to go crazy there. But we've got the lighter areas here. I'm going to go ahead and mist that. I don't want to do more than that. Like one quick mist. Yeah, we're still on. One quick mist is all it needs. Switch to a smaller brush if it's more comfortable for you. This one is they all are different based on the brand, so it doesn't really matter. This is a 14. On another brand, a 14 would be huge, so that's not even that helpful. Okay, I need to go a lot darker now. Again, same color as the background, super important. There's always water mixed in with my paint. I never go with straight paint out of the tube. That is going to be too chunky. Wait, no, it's not a never. Like I said earlier, there's always a chance that something's in. I only have one never, and that is that mop brush. If you're doing something impressionistic, then that would work. I'm going to take a clean brush, slightly damp, and I'm going to use that just to smudge that shadow. Just a couple brush strokes there. See how it's nice and soft. Don't overdo this. This is the biggest mistake when it comes to blending like this is over blending. It's the mistake almost everyone makes, so you're not alone when you do it, because you will. When you're starting anyway, just a few brush strokes is all you need. If you keep blending and blending and blending, you lose your definite lights and darks, and you have one medium wrong color. I'm just going to do a couple brush strokes, smudge that down a bit. I'm going to need that darker, but I can come back and make it darker later. This fin stays pretty dark. It's a little bit lighter in the middle, so that's going to start to dry. So let's mist that again. But just because something stays wet long enough that you can blend it doesn't mean that you should. I'm going to take a little bit of a lighter color and smudge that in. And this is just kind of my base. I'll come back through and do some detailing over it later. This gives me a nice in between. Oops, not that brush. If you have any questions, leave those now. I'll be answering those at the end of the live stream. Also, you can bid on this. The link, if I put the right link, which that's questionable, is in the video description. If it's not the right link, if you go to lachri.com, it's on the front page. Starting bid is $75. If you want an original, that is available to you. And just as a warning, I take forever to get stuff shipped. So just paying attention. I'm looking at that reference photo. Where are my lights and my darks? That's what I care about. And the nice thing with something like this, if you're a bit off, it's not a huge deal. Like if you're doing a human portrait, if you're a little bit off, it's a pretty huge deal and it looks terrible. Not so much here. It's much, much more forgiving. Just a couple brush strokes to soften that. Let's see, we've got dark on the outer edge of this fin, and then a little bit lighter in the middle, so I want to get dark paint on there so that it's wet. Speaking of, let's mist that again. And how often you have to mist, it's going to depend on how humid the room you're in is. I guess I should finish that sentence. Smudge that. Oh, I'm already loving this one. A little darker around the edge here on that fin. And then we've got kind of a mid tone for the belly. Go a little bit more white and blue, a little bit less with the black. There we go. Probably a little too bright. Let's get some more blue. Much better. A little mist there, and let's just smudge some of these out. And there's no perfect brush for smudging. I just want something that's clean and mostly dry. It's slightly damp. Just kind of softening those edges a little bit. Okay, and I've got some areas in here I want to get a lot darker. Oh, by MB, I see you. I will get that in just a second. I can't stop right now because this is one of those stages where I want it to stay wet, and that's what I'm using that fine mist sprayer for. So if I stop, my shark is going to bite me. The boys are going to love you in just a moment here. Now, if your paint starts to dry, and I don't mean like I can use the fine mist sprayer, so I'm fixing it if it starts to dry too much. But if it really starts to dry and you keep reworking it, it can actually pull when you go and rework another area. It might pull some of that previous layer up. So in that case, that starts to happen. Dry it completely, and then you're going to do basically the next step. How I'm going to blend is how you're going to be blending from there on, because you do hit this mid-range stage where that can be a bit of a nightmare. It just keeps pulling up. So I need a lighter color here. I just want to soften. I'm just going to do a couple brush strokes to soften that edge, a couple brush strokes to soften this edge. So what I'm doing is called wet into wet blending. This is more like, you want your work to look more pro, avoid dry brushing and do wet into wet. It will look so much better. Dry brushing, oh, here I could do the video game thing. Dry brushing is for noobs. And you may be thinking, but I am a noob. Yeah, but you don't need to look like a noob. Dry brushing in most cases is not going to make your work look amazing. It's an easy way to blend that a lot of teachers that they themselves are beginners, and there are a lot of very popular teachers on YouTube who are really just beginners that have been painting for a long time but never progressed past being a beginner. They teach that as like the holy grail of blending is dry brushing. And if your canvas is smooth like this, the funny thing is if it's this smooth, you can actually get away with dry brushing and it doesn't look like dry brushing. But dry brushing where it's all bumpy and rough looking, that's fine for crafty stuff. But when you want to start making your stuff look more professional, you want to lean a little bit more towards the wet into wet. Again, like everything except for the mop brush, there is an exception to everything. So there are times where dry brushing is suitable, like that's the right choice, but not that often. Okay, we're going to dry this. We'll let that set for just a second, and we've got the treat from Art by MB, said for the puppers, hope you're well. Do you boys want a super chat? Oh, delayed reaction there. See, thank you. Oh yes, that big snoot was a thank you, huh? Just very nice. There you go. Oh, that's a lot of drool, Gibson. Good boy. It was funny. I was dropping off a painting at UPS. Or the UPS store the other day. Lay down on Saturday. Lay down. Big painting. Actually, 2 big paintings. Well, 3 technically. One had 2 in it. But anyway, moving on. I was dropping it off, and the tape on the back of the box, I'm looking at it as it's sitting under the counter under bright lights, because my studio where I pack stuff is not that bright. I'm like, oh, I'm packing a Gibson hair. I try to keep dog hair out of stuff, but a Gibson hair got into the tape. I was like, oh, that's tacky. The guy who's ringing me up goes, yeah. I'm like, I mean, if you ordered from me, you know Gibson, so it's not that gross, but it's still like, oh. I'm like, put the label on the other side. Hopefully I won't even notice I packed part of my dog into the painting. Lay down, Wade. Cow. 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 Down. Fine. You gotta be mean about it. Okay. Let's see, really quick. Art of Ravens D said, just a quick question. How much did the shipping of that painting for UPS cost? It was somewhere between, I want to say it was like 44, 45, 46. I think one of them was 48. It depends on where it went. One went to, I want to say Washington, and was it Washington, and one to Florida? Something like that. But yeah, they were big 18 by 24 by 4-inch boxes. I'm not sure the weight, but they always are in the 44 to 50-ish range for most of the US when I ship something that size. Okay, are you nice and dry? So remember how I told you to hang on to this? you can go back through. So like we painted over the gills, we painted over the eyes. If you can freehand it in, and like if I were painting on my own, that's what I would do. I think that's actually faster. But I want to show you guys what you can do if you're not comfortable yet with doing something like that. I just have to line him back up, and you can also use this to check your work. So let's say you're painting a portrait or you're painting something where you want it to be exact, and you start painting. It could be a rose, it could be anything, and you're like, oh, I think this is off and I can't, it looks off to me. Take your drawing, hold it back over, and use it to check yourself to see if it is off, and you can then correct it from there. And it's a nice little guide to help you make sure that everything is where you want it to be. Let me grab my transfer paper again. And the more you paint, the more you'll get to where you're not using these tools as much. I always use the tracing and transfer or a projector. Like even when I freehand, I will do that on another piece of paper. Or I do most of my freehanding digitally. But I will do that somewhere else and then use this method or a projector to get my lines cleanly onto the canvas. So I still use it for that. But now I've got my lines right back on there. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to some smaller brushes. I've got some shading. Let's go ahead and do the eye first. So let's use a small round. This one's a Simply Simmons number 8. And the eye is pretty simple. It's just dark and then slightly lighter. You don't try to do a ton of detail in the eye on something like this. Even dolphins, unless I'm working huge and it's a close-up where you would really see the eye, it's just a little speck of where the eye is. Don't try to put in detail like here's the shine on the eye, here's all the, yeah, it just looks weird. Don't try to force detail on something that's that far in the distance. A little bit of a highlight on the side there. Now we've got some shadows. Remember, the harder you push with your brush, the thicker the line is going to be. And that's true with any paintbrush. So we'll do the gills here. There's a bit too much water in my mixture, so it's kind of beating up weird. And then we'll do a shadow for the mouth. But don't leave it just a line like that. He's a cartoon now. Take another brush and just smudge that. Just a bit. We'll be doing highlights and such too, so that's not even close to done. We've got a dark area here. The nose comes up a bit further. And this brush is a little bit damp. So remember how I said if things start to dry, you're going to be using the next technique? This is that next technique where I can take a brush. So I've added the water. This one's slightly damp, and I can use this to smudge. So anywhere where I have shadows or highlights now, I can do this nice blending. Now, if you've got an area like this, see how this part of the tail is just blending into the background? Great. Don't try to force it or outline or try to make it stand out. If something kind of fades into the background, let it. This is going to give you more depth. It's going to make things look more realistic. When you sit there trying to force detail like that you can't really see, I see this a lot when someone's doing a pet portrait. Let's say you're doing a dog and half the face is kind of in shadow. You can't see the detail in the eye, but they try to force the detail in the eye. It looks weird. Let it be in shadow. If it's in shadow, if it fades into the background, let it. It's going to look more natural. Lisa, do you put the lines in where the shading transitions on the body or the difference in the shading to provide the highlights? Sometimes I do, sometimes I just freehand it. I did initially have some of them in. That's up to you if you think that that's going to be helpful to you. I actually find when I draw them in, it's usually less helpful. It makes it a little bit harder than it needs to be. But that's just me. You've got to figure out what works for you. So right now I'm mostly doing black. It's got a little bit of blue in it, but I'm just focusing on where the shadows are. Then I'm going to come through and do a bunch of these highlights, which is what's going to make it look amazing. And the last thing I'll do are the rays of light. So that's another thing, a mistake I often see people make when they're doing acrylics. They're jumping and putting like step number 15. They're trying to do it when they're really still at step number 2. The rays of light have to go last because that goes on top of everything else. This whole area is a bit more shaded, so we'll just do that and kind of smudge that out. Now I can still use the fine mist sprayer to get things a little bit more wet to blend out, but I don't really need to on something this size. Like it's faster, I find, to just do it with my paintbrush the way I'm doing it now. Jason, are you surprised I actually understood what you were asking for once? Weird. It's like you used the real words in the right order. Or the supplements I've been taking are finally working and I understand what people are saying. Just kind of smudging that out. We've got a shadow that comes here. It lines up with this one, so we'll go here and just pull that down to this way and then smudge. Kind of smudging. Notice that I'm focusing on the outside. It's another mistake people make when they do this blending technique, is that they focus in the middle of the area they're blending. If you focus on the middle, you end up pushing the paint out to the area, the outer edge of where you're blending, and you end up with like this round circle-y shape thing. You want to focus on blending the edges, not the inside. Leave the inside alone for the most part. It's those outer edges we're blending. Okay, let's start getting some highlights. I can use these same brushes. I don't want straight white. I'm still blending that in with my blue, that bluish gray color. That's really dry. Let's mist that a bit. A little bit of a highlight there. I'm going to put a little bit down here. Just soften that edge. A little bit more white hitting here. You don't have to blend everything out. If it looks good, just leaving it white, leave it. Don't feel, I mean, this isn't straight white. There's a little bit of blue in there, but don't feel like you have to blend everything. So you've got a line on the inside, or this edge of some of these gills, just a little. Smudging that. Now I'm okay with there being a bit of texture too on some of these brush strokes. Don't feel like every brush stroke needs to be blended out. Sometimes that it's almost like unintentional detail. Let some of those show. If you blend things too much, you end up looking like you have like kind of a plastic figurine. Kind of a highlight that comes here. It goes up the fin just a bit. Smooth that out. It's all in the values. It's not the colors. I'm not using some crazy colors to make this look realistic. How light are your lights? How dark are your darks? This is what's going to make a difference in your work looking realistic. Obviously, you want an accurate drawing, but then the next thing you need to focus on, a lot of people think details. If they just add more brush strokes, more lines, more detail, that will make it look more realistic. Or if they just knew the perfect color to blend. No, those things are not going to make a big difference for you. You want the values. Are your lights light enough and your darks dark enough? And in many cases, make them even a little bit lighter or a little bit darker than what it calls for, and it will look even better. Again, you can bid on this guy. The starting bid is $75 if you want to. Oh, if you're in the U.S. I can't ship things outside of the U.S. It's drama with not being able to track things and people saying they didn't get things, or maybe people didn't get things and it just took forever, and it's too much. So I can't do it at this time. We have a terrible postal system. And USPS or FedEx and UPS are ridiculous to ship something internationally. Okay, now I want to fix the eye. I can still see some of the white line from my transfer paper, so I need to go over part of this. I don't want it to look like he's got white outlining the whole thing. I just really want the inside to fade out. I don't want you to see a big difference between, oops, that's white on it. Let's rinse that. Just want the hint of the eye. I don't want, there we go. Oh, he looks good. Okay, he needs to dry completely so that I can then put the rays of light. Yeah, exactly. Clark Fine Art said, let's not forget about what it takes to get things through customs. That's a whole thing. Yeah, it's funny. I was reading a review somebody had made. They bought something, I think they were in Mexico, and they bought something from the US, and they were mad at the company. They left a bad review on the product because they had to pay whatever custom fees or whatever. And they're like, you should have warned me about that. And it's like, how would they know what your country charges you? Like, you ordered from the US. You should have known over a certain amount that there is, and that was like a $200 item. It was a bird carrier. Over a certain amount, you're gonna pay customs in your country. Like, that's normal. But they left a bad review on the product. I'm like, that's not a product review. You're like, two reasons now. I know you're dumb. One, you didn't know about your own country's customs depending on the cost of what you ordered. Two, what was the other one? Oh, that wasn't a product review. And I'm dumb because I don't remember what I was talking about 2 seconds ago. Okay, let's go ahead now and start on the rays of light. So with this, you've got a few options. If you want them to be more foggy, more opaque, then the titanium white is the way to go. I'm going to start with transparent mixing white because it's going to be a little bit more translucent. If you do not have that, you can still do this technique. You're just going to mix a little bit more water in your titanium white. So let me find, I don't even know where that is. Here we go. So this still Liquitex Basics, it's their transparent mixing white. And I'm gonna make my life a little bit easier to make sure that my lines are pretty straight, or at least straight-ish. I don't need perfect, but I do want straight-ish. So I can use that, or maybe this will be easier. Yeah, I can just get straight lines like this, depending on where I want them coming from. And I'll just take any brush that's kind of clean. I'm gonna get it a little bit damp, throw some transparent mixing white on there, wipe some off on my paper towel because that is way too much, and start making my lines. And they go right over the shark. can make them a little bit wider as I go down. Actually, I'm going to soften it just a bit by working that brush. So here's one where I'm basically dry brushing on this, but because my canvas is so smooth, it doesn't really look like dry brushing. If you've got a rough canvas, yours is going to look bumpy. Doesn't mean it's not pretty, but it is still dry brushing. So I don't want all of them to be that bright. Just kind of fan that out. So you can see I'm doing less and less where I keep reworking that area. Let's actually turn this to the side. That'll make my life a little bit easier here. Now, you can also, if you've got an airbrush, that is normally how I do my rays of light, but I know most of you won't, so we're going to do it this way. I'm going to do a few little thin ones in between these, maybe a little bit more. See, I'm not continuously reworking like I did some of those. And this is giving me variation on how thin or thick those are. Oh, I'm loving this. I really, really like how this guy's coming out. Just a few little guys. Okay, and I can sign it. Really subtle there. Isn't the mixing white the same as gesso? Not even close. Not even, like they couldn't be farther apart. Gesso is very opaque. Transparent mixing white is very not opaque. Not even close. And the thing with gesso too, gesso actually adds more tooth. So we often think of it, oh, it's going to smooth it out if I put more coats of gesso. Yeah, because I sand it. But if you just put gesso by itself or paint with gesso, like it's rough, it's textured. So like you can use clear gesso sometimes for different techniques that I'll do. The problem is anywhere I've done clear gesso, now it's really tacky. Like paint just grips weird. You can see the texture. I do not like it for that. Like I don't use it for anything like that. Okay, now if you have a hard time signing your name, getting it to look like your name, what you want to get is one of these General's charcoal pencils. Oh, where do I want to sign this? I want to sign it down here. And now I can write my name just like I normally would. Well, not really because I'm at a weird angle. Make sure you don't go all the way at the bottom edge because when this gets framed, the frame will, there will be a little lip there. So give yourself a little room there. And then I'm going to sign this in a medium blue because I want you to see it, but I don't want it to be the first thing you see when you look at this painting. Like, oh, wow, that's there. You see, sometimes people will do a landscape and it's like in bright red, this big, ugly signature. And then you have people who do the opposite and sign the back of their work instead. No, sign the front. You want to see it, but you don't want it to be like the focal point of the painting. Okay, and then what I'll do when that dries completely, I can take, there's a little bit of the pencil, white charcoal pencil shows through. I can go and erase it, and that is it. That is the finished shark painting. Ooh, I love him. Oh wait, let me show you what he looks like in this. This lighting is generally a bit more accurate. So there is the finished painting. Again, if you want to, God, he came out good. If you want to buy him, you can bid. The link is in the video description. Starting bid is $75. I don't know, I don't get notifications most of the time. I don't think there's any bids. At least if there are, it's not going to this email. But there you go. Okay. So now we will go through, you know what? One last thing Do I want to do it or do I want to leave it this subtle? You can flick paint and it just gives a cool, we're going to do it. We're going to, we have to do it. It gives just a cool atmosphere of little speckles, little bubbles and such in the water. So let's head back over. I have to do it. Once I realized I wanted to, like, okay, I'm going to need the tools I'm going to use here are a stiff brush. Oh, I see that, Patty. I'll get you in just a second. Ooh, yay. And a palette knife. And I'm going to use a little bit of water. Well, actually, a decent amount of water. I don't want this to be straight white. I actually want like a darker blue speckles. I don't want this to be that in your face because this painting does have a more subtle look. I'm going to have that on my paper towel because that's going to flick too much. I'm just going to get a few little, oh yeah, that gives me a nice atmosphere. It's probably not showing on that camera. I'll show you in just a moment here. Yeah, that's a really pretty, just gives a little bit more atmosphere to the piece, which you are not seeing on that one. Don't overdo this, by the way. And I'll show you on this one now. There we go. You can see the speckles there. And then we'll back out so it's actually in focus. So there is the finished painting. If you want to buy this guy, again, $70 is the starting bid for an original painting. There you go. Actually, the color looks better there. The lights are so bright in here, it kind of overexposes it, but that looks pretty accurate. So yay, I'm super happy with how he came out. Okay, and then we have from Patty, said the boys look like they're waiting so patiently for a treat. You think so? Gibson, you know your head fits in that bed, right? It doesn't have to lay on the floor. Do you want a super chat? Yeah, I think I would. Thank you so much, Patty. Oh, does that sound tasty to you? Okay, you could have a super chat. It is friggin' hot in here. There you go. Good boy. Oh, drop yours. Anytime Gibson drops his, I have to hold Wade's head away because Wade will dive for it and then Gibson doesn't get his. I mean, he does. I always replace it, but still. Okay, go lay down. Good boys. Thank you so much, Patty. Lay down. Down. Cow. Go lay down. It's like, oh, just stand here. Oh, big stretch first. Slowest race dogs ever. If you ever wondered what living with a greyhound is like, this is pretty much it. Them ignoring any commands you give them because they're sight hounds, so they're stubborn, and mostly sleeping. Like, you got to get them comfy beds because they're going to get their use out of those beds. Water. Thank God, my water is in here. $70 starting bid, sorry. The other ones are usually 70, 75 or 70 for the charcoal or pan pastel, 75 for acrylic paintings. That's what it is. Okay. So now we'll go over questions. If you have any, you can send those in. We've got 45 minutes to chat. Rick said, may I ask if there's a benefit to using canvas board or actual canvas for a painting? How and when do you decide to use one over the other? Oh, that's a great question. Okay, pros and cons of both. Pros of canvas board is this does not take much space. I can stack, I just put a piece of glassine in between because sometimes one will stick to the other and it'll kind of mess up the paint. So I'll put glassine in between and they store like this. So easy to store if you're doing art shows and you want like less expensive paintings to bring with you. Like I am almost always going to go with this. They're cheaper, they look beautiful, they're easier to frame. Now they do have to be framed to be hung, or somebody could set them on a shelf because they're lightweight enough. You just set it on a shelf and it would be gorgeous too. But they're, those are huge benefits. Downside, they're more prone to warping. So the bigger you go, the more likely it is to warp. If you keep it flat all the time, not an issue. And Fredrix is going to be the least likely to warp. Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Blick, all those generic ones warp pretty bad. They'll kind of end up in a boat shape. And the bigger you go, the worse that's going to be. Once you put them in a frame, you're generally going to be fine. I don't ever worry about Fredrix once they're in a frame. Anything from Hobby Lobby, like those generic Hobby Lobby or Michaels, those I'm always concerned with. But once they're in a frame, that reduces risk of warping quite a bit. The thing is with these, once they warp, I mean, they warp. You can kind of try to flatten them out, and that can help. I mean, once they're framed, they'll stay flat for the most part. A canvas, like if something goes wrong with the edging, like if a canvas, a stretched canvas goes, do I have one over? I don't have one I can just pick up. But like if the edge gets damaged at all, you can restretch it over new stretcher bars. You can't over this. Like let's say I put, and I know because I've done this, I've put 3M, like this double-sided sticky tape, and just stuck it on walls. Sometimes that will tear the paper off, and like I can't fix that. That's just, I guess I could remove it and then put some kind of other paper in its place. So I guess you kind of could fix it. I don't know. It just seems a little bit more forgiving on a bigger canvas. These are easier to ship, way easier to ship, depending on the size, of course. 8 by 10 either way isn't too difficult, whether it be canvas or stretch canvas. I mean canvas board or stretch canvas. Yeah, some people will get a little bit elitist about it. I remember one woman, but to be fair, she was not, she liked to think herself an art curator slash ran the church, a church. It was very bizarre. But she, her son was one that made trash art. Like, and I don't say that to be rude. It was like the theme, trash art. And like in charge like $10,000. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. It was terrible. But he got to where he was kind of popular at the time for some reason locally. And he had, I guess people were, also, I kind of think it was more of a tax evasion thing, so maybe there was something else going on, but whatever. Point is, back to the original point, I remember one time she looked at one of mine, she's like, oh, it's on canvas board. It was actually a gesso board. Oh, it was framed. It doesn't matter. Once it's framed, no one knows the difference. And she seemed to think that, oh, you can't charge as much for that then. And it's like, not true, but again, she wasn't a real art curator, so I can't really take her advice. She's the only one I ever saw that like thought negatively of that. Now, canvas boards, or like the nature core boards from Fredrix, you do have to be extra careful with those because the edges of them, and they all end up being kind of bent and whatever on the edges a little bit, which is no big deal because you're going to frame them. You'll never see it anyway. But I had one once where I dropped, like if it's the outer edge, I don't care. But I dropped something in the corner, crushed, like this part of the corner crushed in. You can't fix it. That's it. That's toast. Can't sell it. The outer edges of those, the corners, like when you frame them, the edges kind of pinch in. That's normal. I don't worry about that. But you can't, those you really cannot fix. So those ones, I don't know if Fredrix still makes them. I don't buy them anymore. I loved painting on them. I love the surface. But if you drop it on the corner, I can't fix it. Again, the edges don't matter. The corner, the front, so it affected the front of the canvas is basically where I'm going with that. So that I love painting on them, but you have to be so careful, and I don't think I'm careful enough, obviously, because I messed that one up. But yeah, once these are framed, they all look the same once they're framed. So the canvas board, you're going to frame in an open frame, and actually these are easier to frame because a stretch canvas needs you need a thicker, I don't know how to explain it, the outer, actually wait, I have one, and this is an actual open frame here. This one is not a stretched canvas. I've actually used little nails to put this in. But if you look at the back of the canvas, or this is an open frame. So this, can you see that there's like a gap here? Like the painting sits inside further. It's not flush with the outer edge. If this was a stretch canvas, the stretch canvas would actually be up a little bit. You need the lip inside of a stretch canvas one, which is what this is, an open frame. You need these to be deep enough that the stretch canvas fits in it. With canvas boards like this, you don't need it to be that deep. So I'm kind of wasting this canvas on a canvas board, or the frame on a canvas board, but it looks so pretty together. I can go to like Walmart or wherever and probably get it at like a 99-cent store. I don't know. I've never been to one of them. Actually, I went to one once, but I didn't look to see if they have frames. But if they did have frames, like 8 by 10 standard frames, pop the glass out, and these are small enough a canvas board can actually stick in a regular, basic, cheap, standard, normal, like family photo frame. You just pop, you don't want to put it behind the glass, remove the glass, you can put the canvas inside. So it's much, much cheaper and easier for a customer to frame this than it would be a stretched canvas. Now on the flip side, a stretched canvas, you can paint the edges and hang it as is. Always looks nicer in a frame, but that is an option with those. So yeah, you've got pros and cons, knocking things down. You've got pros and cons of both, so that kind of tells you some of the differences. Okay. Yeah, Art of Raven D said, I find bigger canvas boards warp. At least that was my experience. Can't say for Fredrix. Big enough, 16 by 20, they're going to warp if you're not keeping them flat. If you keep them flat, it's fine. If Hobby Lobbies and some of these generics, they don't even have to be kept flat. They'll still, like, you can keep them flat and they'll still warp. It doesn't matter. So Fredrix are the only ones I would use. 8 by 10s I've not really had a problem with. The bigger you go, if they're like sitting in a cupboard, like at an angle and nothing is supporting it, I have had those start to kind of sag a little. Okay. Jason said, okay, we got that one. Patty said, can I reuse Fredrix Canvas from an old painting? Do I just paint white over the old painting? Gesso, ideally. Put a coat of gesso over it, or I would probably sand it a little bit first and then put gesso over it, because chances are your painting, now mine are perfectly flat, like you can't feel the texture on my paintings because of the way that I paint, but most people paint with thicker paint, and then if you can feel the ridges under, you can take sandpaper, sand it out first, put a coat of gesso, 2 coats, whatever, then do a light sanding again, and you're good to go. So yes, you can reuse them. And that's true, it's not just Fredrix, like any canvas. Vesper said, you use warm, light, cool shadows, then cool, light, warm shadows for portraits, figure drawing, or is it all situational? It depends on the lighting. Like, that's one of those things, it's a good rule to kind of go by, but depending on the lighting in that situation, it may not be the case, because the way that light bounces and flashes back up, and depending on what color is around. So if there's something gold sitting off camera and it's hitting that, it's going to affect the shadow, even if it should be one way or the other. So I go situational on that. Like, and keep in mind too, I never do portraits like from my head. I'm always going off a reference photo, so I go with what the reference photo has. Patty said, can some rays of light go behind the shark too? Yes, you could make them go behind. Would the rays be a little lighter since they are further away? It depends, like how the light's catching. You can make some lighter, you can make some darker. That's not a one way or the other sort of thing. Another thing you can do on something like this, if you really wanted more rays of light, I could do a glaze. Like, I could have done these rays of light with mixing a little bit of blue in it. When it dried, put a few with brighter white. You can get a little bit more depth that way and more variation in that. But that's not how I had my reference photo, so I didn't do that. What grit of sandpaper do you use to sand gesso? I usually use, what is it, a 320, 330, something, like 3 something is usually what I go with, or a 220, whatever I happen to have, but any in that range works. I did once use a 1200 grit sandpaper. Yeah, don't do that. It's like, you can end up with almost a glass-like surface. It is not fun to paint on. Way too slippery. Not enjoyable. Do not recommend. Lately said, I painted the shark last week. I think I need to paint this, or I painted the lion last week. I need to paint the shark too. Absolutely. And then share it, because I want to see. Okay, it is a 9:24. What do we need to talk about? You know, need a demonstration of something? I don't know. I can tell you, well, you guys come up with questions to ask if you want to chat about art. I do have animal news that I'm excited about. So I got an updated photo of French fry, actually. Oh, I don't have it on this computer. I can't show you. I don't know. Look at a blue parrotlet. That's French fry. But I did find out which one I'm getting. So French fry, the baby parrotlet. I've got a couple more weeks till I can go get him. And then this weekend, Matt doesn't have any animals. He's got his 3 birds and a hognose snake are what he's responsible to take care of. So he doesn't really have that many animals that he takes care of. Well, he decided he wanted a crested gecko too. So I figure that's not that much more work. Please do. And that means I get to build another vivarium, because their requirements are very similar to the red-eye tree frog as far as the vivarium goes. So I get to do that this weekend. Super excited. I'm planning to record it. I always plan, but they're so messy to work on. It's hard to handle the camera and do all that at the same time, but I do want to record it. But that'll be fun. I'm excited to build that. It's another like artsy outlet to build these vivariums, and you've got the branches coming down, and I use spray foam. So the process is to get the branches, and I want it to come out looking kind of like roots coming out from like a cliff or something like that. But I use a bunch of different big branches and such, and cork, that's it. Cork rounds, different shapes of cork. And you use spray foam, so silicone, and then spray foam that into your background. And then the next day when the spray foam, it gets really poofy, it dries, you chop it, or like cut it so it's kind of like rock type shape. And then after that, you take silicone, coat it with that, then coat that with cocoa core, and then put your plants in. So I'm very excited, really excited to get that all set up, but that'll be fun. So 2 new critters technically coming in the next couple of weeks. We're going on, not this weekend, but next weekend in Grapevine, Texas. There's going to be a big reptile expo, so they always have a ton of crested geckos there. So Matt will get to pick out his new friend then. So yay! Oh, Joey, why is that not letting you bid? What's it doing? I know you and I have, poor Joey, there have been so many issues with my website, and some people, it just doesn't, even my email will just be like, no, we're not talking. So yes, I got your email, and yes. I don't know how to fix it. We had a kind of a workaround. Nick had found, like, if you log in but then like leave the site and then go back to it or something. What were you doing, Nick, to fix it? Will French fry be a subject for art someday? Absolutely. French fry is going to have quite a few stickers, and French fry is going to be in a lot of my videos. So he's going to be leaving commentary while I talk. So, you know, when I say the wrong thing or whatever, he will be there to notify all of us. So it's going to be a lot of fun to have him in the videos. Like Chicken, I love Chicken, but Chicken's not really my bird. He's my husband's. So it's different when it's your own bird, like training wise. So this is going to be fun. Prudence said, do you paint with oils? I do. If so, what's the difference with oil primer and acrylic primer for an oil painting? Beginner here. Either would work. Oil primed canvases, I find they typically are going to be a little bit more smooth than an acrylic primed, but once you get the base layer on, it doesn't matter anymore anyway. But given the choice, if I'm going to do something with all acrylics, if I'm going to do an all oil painting and there is an oil primed canvas available, that is the one I'm always going to reach for. I like how that feels, where it's super, super smooth, but either works fine. Art by MB said, can you use Liquitex Basics to paint on walls? I want to do a mural in a bathroom. Yes, I have. I've done entire murals with nothing but Liquitex Basics. I also, now if it's a big wall and I'm going to do like a big background, like I did one where it's actually in my old bed. My parents would not let me paint my bedroom walls when I lived there. I got married, moved out, and like the next weekend they had me over at their house painting a mural on my old bedroom wall. It's not right, but it's still painting, and it's held up great. That was what? We got married 24 years ago, so it's held up just fine. And it's the background color, they're whales and dolphins, but the main background color is just like blue. I made it fade from light blue to dark blue. That I used house paint. And then for the dolphins and whales, that I used Liquitex Basics, and it held up fine. But I've also done murals where everything was with Liquitex Basics, and that also held up fine. Okay, so Nick said, once you've logged in once, just ignore the login stuff and go straight to bidding. Don't worry about hitting login again. That is the solution, Joey, if you can try that. Let's see. But depending on how big you're going, sometimes just all wall paint is okay. I've done that too. But it's also kind of impractical if you need a whole bunch of little colors. So usually the subject, if it's like in the case of the whale and the dolphins, that I did with the Liquitex Basics, but the main background I did with normal house paint. I just get like what is it, eggshell or something like that. What is it? It's not completely matte. It's got a little bit of gloss to it. And even, no, actually the mural in here, this was done with all house paint. Yeah, everything except for I used gold marker on top of it. Deborah said you should do French fry as a live in acrylics. I might do that. He couldn't be in here for that though. The only mediums that I would have him, he could come in after the acrylics are done and put away. But I don't like birds to be around any fumes like that. Charcoal he could be in here for, or watercolor and colored pencil. I think those are the only two mediums that would really, pastels he could in colored pencil, but when I spray Spectrafix, I would need to spray it in another room and then bring it back in here. So that would be a little bit more of a pain. Art of Raven D said, one thing I hate about oil ground is it takes a long time before I can use the surface. I'm on to week 2 of waiting for my contest panels to set. Oh, that is a long time. Nadine said, when do we get a studio tour? Done in daylight so we can actually see it. Well, it's always dark in here now because I did the stained glass looking windows. So yeah, but I do, that is the next. I'm working on one video. So I'm working with a coach. So it just takes a long time for me to do videos right now, or I'm trying to like make them better so you guys actually like them better. But the studio tour is the next one. So the one I'm working on now, I recorded it, actually I just re-recorded it this weekend. I've got a few B-roll clips and now I have to edit it all together. Once that one's done, then I'm going to start on the studio tour. And I'm kind of glad that I waited, that I didn't do it right away, because I've made a few major changes, like putting a reef tank in here since I thought it was done. So hopefully soon. But yeah, I'm going to have to put lights on in here, because like different lights, like well, for filming, because it is always like, it has that, kind of like when you go into a restaurant, it has that mood, like it's on mood lighting. That is what my studio is like. Let's see. Any other things to chat about? We've got a half an hour, so. Same problem as usual, just tells me there's a critical error. I've tried everything suggested. I've even tried resetting my password. Can't get anything through. Can you make a new account on my site, maybe? Make a new fake one? I don't know. I wonder if that would work. I mean, your backup plan is fine too, but I want you to be able to be involved, so. Yeah, I wish I could figure out what that's going. I don't know. I don't know how to work my website. There's going to be, I know there's a major update coming. What did they say? It was June 28th. It was like Friday. It was a Friday, like end of the month. It'll be down for like an hour. So if you go to look at the Patreon video library and it's down on a Friday coming up, it'll be back. They're just doing a major, like for the C panel. I don't know if that'll affect it shouldn't affect anything else. I'm trying to think, what other stories do I have for you? Or do you have any art things? Hey, Joey, at least your emails are coming through now. Like, we know that's been a problem in the past with my emails not liking your emails and them not. So, you know, hey, we're moving along in one direction at least. Yes, if you have not signed already, if you like tutorials, if you want to learn more and you want to take your work even further, you can sign up for Patreon for as little as $6 a month. You get access to every single video. Nothing is held, no video lessons are held back at the $6 price. You get all of them. There's over 400 available instantly when you sign up. I've been making them over there since 2014, so that is a lot of videos, more than you're going to get anywhere else, because I've been doing it a really long time. Plus, I've been teaching a long time, so I know how to word things in a way or explain things in a way I've seen. Like, I know that the things you're typically likely to trip over, the things that are going to be a bit of a challenge, so I can hopefully walk you through avoiding those or how to fix it when they happen. I've been teaching since, gosh, 98, 99, I don't know, a really long time. Long enough that I'm old enough, but then my memory is now affecting me. But those are a lot of 400 lessons, multiple mediums, everything: oil, acrylic, colored pencil, pencil, charcoal, airbrush, watercolor, digital painting. We're getting some more of those. So we've got a ton over there. And then the other tiers get you extra rewards, like extra reference photos, postcards, mini prints that just went out today for the last 2 months. So finally, now I need to get May's done. They're always 1 month behind on purpose, but this time I was a couple months behind. So those are all going out if you've been waiting for them. And the people who are waiting for the giveaway from like forever ago that they never showed up, those got sent too. So those are on the way. Finally got the stamps in. Let's see. Art of Raven D said, if you ever found oil paint at Dollar Tree, would you buy it and review them on YouTube for the lulz? I would have to go to a Dollar Tree first. I'm not a fan of those stores because it's like everything is just, they make sense for like party decor. Totally makes sense. But most of the other stuff, and I've watched so much stuff that like, I'm just not a fan of that style of store. I don't feel like you're really getting the value that it sounds like. I don't know. My mom goes to them a lot. What did she get there? I don't even know what she said she got. I know she's talked about going into them, but yeah, I avoid them. Also, Matt used to work for Terminex, and they're apparently all infested with roaches. Like everyone he ever had to go into, he's like, you don't buy anything from there. You're coming home with German roaches. So, you know, he's made me a little paranoid about certain bugs. But yeah, so we just don't go to them. So I can't say that I would do that. Baby Panda said, have you ever got tired? If you ever got tired of art, you could always transition into a home decorator. Your style is amazing. Thank you. I love home decor stuff. I love home decor. Like I'm in a bunch of home decor groups because I like seeing what people post so I can judge their homes. Like I don't reply typically. Like no one needs to hear me talk about it. Well, you guys do apparently, but like I don't reply to those. I just like to see the photos because I'm apparently a creepy stalker of inside people's homes. So one, I can judge their cleanliness because that's how I am. And two, like if this was my house, these are the things I would change. So I just think those are fun. But yeah, I love home decorating. Is very fun for me. Basically, my decor is buy everything teal. Let's see. But thank you. I'm just scrolling through. Brittany said, I found a channel that has its latest episode today saying that Temu is garbage. Temu is garbage. I found, I don't know why YouTube thought I would want to see this because I don't watch stuff like this, but they decided I needed to watch a woman who uploaded a video 5 days ago. It has 300 views, and she's trying to be a beauty vlogger. She's wearing a fake pink wig. She's missing teeth, like a fair amount of teeth, or just not in her head, telling you about her Temu haul. I'm like, this is everything wrong with the world. Like, stop buying Temu and go to the dentist. Oh, that's rude. But seriously. It was just, why did YouTube, although, no, I take it back. YouTube was right. I did want to see that because I wanted to laugh. But it was just like, wow, wow. Wow. So anyway, Art by MB said, don't look at my house. It's filled with too many art supplies and lots of hand-me-down furniture that doesn't match. That's how we started. When we got married, we had all the non-matching furniture, but I think that can be cute too. Like that can be, I don't like things to be too matchy-matchy. Like I don't want to set. Like I don't want nothing, like they need to go, but not match. So yeah, that can be very cute too. Let's see. Anything else? We're down to 20 minutes. Oh, email. What came through? Let's see. I didn't even get the email yesterday, Joey. Oh my gosh. See, my email is bouncing stuff back. I'll have to go through. Did it go? Why do I get some and not all? I do not understand. Why my email, so my email does still hate you apparently, or yours hates me. I'm not sure which way, like, or if they just both are like opposite magnet things. I don't even know why that happens. Joseph's a scavenger chic. Hey, that works. I did, when we first got married, I wanted everything matchy-matchy. I had some misunderstandings about decor. But I took all of our furniture to make it all match and used a hot glue gun and black marble shelving paper and hot glue gunned it to all of like the side table, the dresser, like everything. I burned the crap out of my leg because I was using a cheap hot glue gun because it's me. And I was super broke. So I wasn't getting a good one, but it shot out and burned my leg and it was bad. Like, there are words involved to describe the things that happened to that sore as it healed over the next 3 days that I will not expose you to, but it was bad. It was gross. That is my memory of trying to make everything matchy-matchy. Maybe that's why I'm so opposed to matchy-matchy furniture because, it did not end well for me. Yeah. Let's see. Hey, that's what I would do. Art by MB said, I'm talking about a table from one set and chairs from a completely different set. That's what I would do. I would do chairs, like every single chair is from a different, like I don't want, well, actually all my bar stools all do match. So there is something that matches. But like yeah, I don't want like nothing in my, I do have two end tables that match and they actually look like they go with the center under the TV console thing, but technically they don't. That is what I would do. Like I've seen where people will take a table and it's like every single chair is a different color and a different, and it's that you can make that so cute. If you, there's a way to do it intentionally too, where you can take all of those different chairs and like sand them down and paint them, like take a couple of different colors to stain or paint them. So it's like they go together, but the shapes are all wrong because they don't go together, but it can look so cute. That can like, I love refinishing old furniture, but unfortunately, because of Matt working at Terminex and now my new fear of bed, well, not new, it's been there since what, 2012, 2000, whenever he was working there, of bed bugs, I don't buy any used furniture, will never come into my house, but like, ooh, it's bad. So yeah, that's, I unfortunately don't get the joy of refinishing old furniture anymore, which I'm sad about. This tea is really cold by now. Don't care, still good. I've got nothing. I'm trying to think, what else do we have? I need to do a video showing you guys. I do have one on Patreon, but I want to do more showing you guys. Maybe as a live stream would be cool if I could set it up. Gallery glass. So that's cool. See, Art by MB said, that's a really good idea. Thank you. Like join some decorating groups or Pinterest. Look at some of the home decorating stuff, like where people redo, and I think it looks better than buying new. I don't like brand new furniture as much. Well, I like stuff to look like it's been damaged, but like I buy it that way on purpose. But you can do some like such cute stuff with whatever you already have and make it look so nice, so fun. Thank you, Snow. What's the purpose of an underpainting? I usually use it to block things in, so that when I then go on top, like with the part where I'm being more serious about the blending and the details, it's just easier because I have like everything kind of mapped out. It can also be used so that you can do glazing techniques on top so you get a lot more depth, which is really cool. So there's a few reasons for doing an underpainting, but it can certainly make your life a lot easier if you do an underpainting first, where it's just, you can do it in just black and white or like a raw umber and white, and or white. Usually I do raw umber, white and black because I cheat, but doing something where it's just that monochromatic tones, that'll really give you an easy way to glaze color on top and make your life a lot easier because you're not fighting color. You're not even worried about color. You're just worried about your values and kind of blocking things in. So it can make the painting process a lot easier, and the end result looks amazing because the more glazes you do, the more depth you get. Because all of the paints that we use, they're all, I mean, even the white and the black, there's always some transparency to it. And so you can always see some details, whether it be a brush stroke or a color underneath, and you get a lot more depth. The more layers you have, the more depth that is in that piece. You don't really see that when, and all of us are used to looking at work online, photos of stuff. You don't see that depth there. It's very subtle, and the average viewer, when they look at it in person, they don't even realize that's what they're seeing, but it makes things look so much better the more layers you have like that. Sigh, my old tea is gone. Very good, even cold. I need to make some more. Trying to think, and you know what's annoying is I have had so many things during the week. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to tell you guys about this, and I can't think of them right now. Oh, you emailed me the lion painting? I want to see. To go through now. I bet you half my stuff is going to my spam folder. I actually haven't checked spam in a few days. So it's probably full of stuff that I actually, and there it is. Let's mark you not spam. What else is in here? Shoe cart. Oh, inappropriate words I'm not going to say on. Wow. G-Clay today. There's a sale code. Let's go ahead and you're not spam. Whoa, there's more inappropriate words. Lots of people wanting to do promos. Oh, I had one. Somebody was asking for a shark reference photo for tonight. That is not spam. God, the amount of stuff in my spam that shouldn't be. I mean, I'm glad that a lot of it is in here because I don't want to know about things I can't say. Okay, let's go back and see what lion. Ooh, Lily, that lion looks up. I'm going to show you guys. Look at Lily's painting of her lion. Is that not awesome? Oh my gosh, that looks so good. It looks better in person because obviously the lighting's getting messed up on my phone. Nice work. Oh, I'm excited. Okay. Oh, we have Pauline said, time for a pup treat. What do you guys think? Do you want a super chat? You want a super chat? Well, come on. Thank you, Pauline. Okay, back up. Getting pushy there, sir. That is a pushy cow. See, thank you. This is very good, huh? Oh, that was a nice, gentle way to take that. Good question. Prudence said, should you be careful with the choice of color for the underpainting in combination with the glazing? Yes. I like for portraits, I usually don't like to do a black and white underpainting in portraits. I usually like to use brown tones because I like how those come through better when I'm glazing over it. Personal preference, but I feel like the black and white ends up being too cool. Like I don't know, it's just too dull. It's not that it can't look amazing, it's just not my preference. Now, if I'm gonna do a black and white painting, obviously, I'm gonna go with a black and white underpainting. That was a good question. Art by MB said, if or when you go on vacation, what do you bring in terms of art supplies? I'm fighting the urge to bring my entire studio. There wouldn't be room for the rest of my family if I do. Well, one, I don't go on vacation. I bought animals, a lot of them. There's no vacation in my life. Vacation is home. But when I have traveled in the past, digital is where I always go. Then I just have my tablet. So like I have my Samsung, it used to be the Samsung Note. Now it's what, the Samsung Tab S9 Plus? No, are those, I don't even know what they're calling them now, but that's like my Samsung, if you've got an iPad, that's what I do, and I can draw on that. It doesn't take up a lot of space. Obviously, I have to keep it charged, but it's so much easier than dragging, because I used to try to bring a sketch pad and stuff when I would go, like, because the only time, well, last time I did that was when I went to my mom's, which was like 2017. I have not been in forever. I make her come here now, but which hasn't happened in forever as well. But we talk on the phone every day instead. But anyway, yeah, I brought my tablet with me, and so I could sketch, and I didn't have to drag so much with me. And then on the tablet, you've got every color you own, you've got every reference photo. Like it makes so much more sense for me. So that's what I go with. Lily said, nothing in my house matches, but in the same theme. That was a good question, Art by MB. Will you ask ChatGPT to give us art subjects to talk about? It's weirdly helpful. I'm trying to think what else. I know there was other stuff I wanted to talk about. It's very odd that I can't think of anything. We're gonna just stare at each other awkwardly. I don't know. I can't think of anything. Talk to me, guys. This is, by the way, the palette. It's got the lid on it, so that will keep the air out. And if I wanted to keep that paint wet, I'm just gonna take a paper towel, get it a little wet, and shove that in there, or kind of damp. I don't want to need it super wet, but I just dipped it in my water, stick it in there, and that will keep everything wet for a very long time, minus the areas I mixed. Anywhere I mixed color, it won't, but it will. Yeah, I need to change the reference picture link. I can actually, no, I don't know if I can do that while I'm live. Those palettes, though, seriously, I use one for acrylic and one for oil. These are just like, it's a big Tupperware, and I just have my glass palette inside. They have the Stay Wet palette thing that fits in that. I don't like it. It makes the paint texture weird, and it's weird to clean up. I just don't like it. Prudence said you said you have stained glass windows. Did you do it yourself? If so, what's the process? I have fake stained glass windows, but they look like, when you first walk in, it looks like stained glass. You've got the texture. It doesn't look like, you know how you can get the ones on Amazon that you like window film? That does not look like stained glass. This has texture because of the way that you paint it, but they're all painted. I can actually show you on this. Wait, no, this camera will probably make it easier. Let's see. Which camera is that? That is this one. So you can kind of see the lighting's weird. Wait, I can turn this light off. That sort of helps. The lighting's weird in here right now because it's dark, but there it tries to make it really light. But let me see if I can fix it so it looks more like what it looks like in here, because it actually is pretty cool. This is kind of weird to sit here holding this like this, but let me find my camera hub and Facecam 2 automatic. That's closer. That's kind of what it looks like in here in the dark at night, and in the day, oh my gosh, these windows are so pretty with the light coming in the day. But yeah, this is pretty much what the studio looks like. So you can see the reef tank over there, although that's overexposed, so it doesn't look good. It's actually like neon green, or the green star polyps in there. There's the dragon tank and the boys. Gibson, your head fits in the bed. It doesn't need to sit there. We go around, there's storage. There's my oil paints. There's lights and stuff on top of the room. There's my elbow. Wait, let's go back this way. Don't get sick. Turning around, here's my dart frog. Let's kind of move over here. Oops. We've got the dart frog vivarium that is way overexposed, so you can't see anything, unfortunately. And then back here, I've got pencils, extra pencils stored on the wall. There's the big light that I use. That is a big light that I use when I'm filming, and then we're back around. So yeah, that is the studio. So there, you got a partial tour. I need to do a real tour with the real cameras and actually make it look good. Let's see. Lily said, we're going camping and I am packing my colored pencil stuff, walking around with phone in hand as I put supplies in a briefcase. Yeah, and the setting in here too, like if you have the opportunity to redo whatever your art space is, and I know you don't always, I mean, there was one time, we lived with my in-laws for a while. My bedroom was my art studio, which was also my living room, and it was like everything, and it was not a big room, like tiny, tiny room. But, you know, you can still make it comfortable, like putting area rugs on the floor, which is great because it kept paint off the floor. But trying to make the space that you're working in, I find, at least for me, I don't know, maybe it's a male or female thing, because my male friend artists don't care at all about, like, it doesn't seem to make a difference for most of them. Let me know in the comments if it does for you, like if you're male or female, and if that makes a difference to you. But it seems like all of my male artist friends who are amazing, they don't really care that much. They just want convenience and good lighting. I find I want an atmosphere like this. This is what makes me want to paint, like, is the atmosphere. I want to paint Matt's bedroom, for example. He will not let me because he does not care. I'm like, I can make it so cute. It can be so pretty, like dark charcoal walls, make it all like man bedroom type. Won't let me touch it. It's his room. He doesn't care about the walls. I'm like, I'll do it. Nope, won't let me do it. So yeah, I definitely, it's very important to me that the space that I'm in has to feel a certain way for me to even want to work. When the room had white walls, or they were almost white, they're like a light gray, it didn't have the same feel, and I was never really in the mood to paint. You still have to paint because it's my job, so it doesn't matter if I'm in the mood or not. Obviously, I'm going to go do it. But this definitely is one of those places now that this is done, I'm just so comfortable in here. I want to spend more time in here, so it's been really cool. Really recommend redecorating when possible, whatever your art space is. And there's so much stuff you can do too. So if you're renting, like in my old apartment, I actually did, but we moved like a few months after I finished that room. But I had curtains hanging the dark teal in the background that covered my shelves. Like there are things you can do without painting because I couldn't paint. So there were things I had hanging on the wall that just gave it that more homey feel, which was still really cool. Clark Feiner said, my space still isn't exactly how I wanted. I love your studio. Thanks. Mine took 4 years to get it this way. It was a very slow, like I'd make a little change and then another little change and then another little, and then I made the big change this January. Nick, I would rather not discuss carpets. You and that carpet. Joseph said, do the stained glass windows look as good from the outside, or is the texture lost from the outside? Yeah, they still look as good. The only thing that's kind of weird though, from the outside you see, like they're normal windows, so they've got a halfway line where you would lift it if you wanted to open the window. So from the outside, you see that white bar from that area, so it doesn't look that cool. The color looks cool, and then you've got a screen on the bottom half because they're, again, normal home windows. So it's not like, from the outside, it doesn't look nearly as good as it does from the inside. It's cool, but almost borderline tacky, because it's obviously not stained glass from the outside, because I've got a bar going halfway through the design and a screen on the bottom half. So it's kind of from the inside, it doesn't have the tacky feel because it doesn't have it. It looks like a full window the way that that is done. So very different inside versus outside. Cool, but a little on the tacky side. I actually bought it. I haven't done it yet. I got a clear UV protecting film to put on the back of these. And then I may put another one, because like I said, a little tacky, on the outside. That's where it blocks light or whatever, like the reflective kind of mirror type thing from the outside. So I might do that, considering it. Clark Fanner said, who cares what a neighbor might think? You have that on the view on the inside. Well, and I don't think the neighbors would care. I don't think I could do it on the front of the house because the HOA, that would be an issue. But in the back, the neighbors I have on the side, I doubt they'd care. It's two men on either side. They're not typically going to be super like prissy about they're the only people who could see it from like their patios and even that's not a lot. So I don't think. Luckily, it's only me who sees it, so the tacky factor, I have a lot of, all of my tacky home decor stuff goes in the backyard. Like, I've got stuff that you stick in the ground, like a fish, because why would I not want that under my crepe myrtles? Like little home colorful decor stuff that is technically fairly tacky stuff. I love that stuff outside. Not in the house, but I love it outside, so the windows work. Nick, what medium, was it acrylics you got that on? Oh, it was the airbrush stuff, huh? Have you used alcohol to try to get it out? I mean, it's hard on a carpet, but if you got it soaked with alcohol and then used a carpet like a mini green clean machine type carpet thing to suck it back up, you may be able to get more of that up. Because, give it some vodka, let it soak, give it some more vodka, take a shot or two, more vodka, and then try that green clean machine like hot water, and you may be able to, scrub it. You may be able to get more of that out. I'm not sure if you did that already. Yeah, it's funny. Lily had said my art studio is camo color Jackson Pollock style floor. Yeah, this works out good. It's tile, so I just take a razor blade when the paint is too thick and just scrape off anywhere where I've gotten it out on the floor. That was such a must for me when we got the house. I'm so glad we didn't do hardwood floors. I prefer hardwood. I think it's way prettier. These are the wood look tile, but they're a dark neutral brown, and they're so nice. I would have trashed wood floors by now, and definitely carpet. But with the tanks and everything, with this, I get salt water all over. I get anything. Anything is clean. Like, I can clean it really easily. So, and especially with all these animals, that's a big deal for me because I'm weird about clean stuff anyway. So yeah, that was the biggest upgrade we did on the house. Is we did the tile, the hardwood look, fake whatever tile through the whole house. Oh, was so worth it. Okay, I think, Joey, if you are watching, I will email you again. If I don't, keep emailing me till we get a hold of each other, or we'll message through Patreon, because that seems, and I'll get an invoice over to you for that, because I think that it is now 10 o'clock, so I think it's over. So that painting, unless someone snuck in last minute, which I doubt, because I think that is your shark, Joey. Let's see. Okay, yep, you get it, Joey. $75. I will send you, or you can just PayPal it to me or whatever, send it, and I will get that. Well, you know me well enough to know I take forever. So let's not lie, Lisa. Anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight, and I will see you next week. I don't know what we're doing next week. I've got to come up with the next batch of stuff. I've been preparing them like groups of 4 at a time. So if you have something that you would like to see me paint, let me know. Leave a comment. Not so much in the chat now. Leave it when the video's over. You can leave a normal comment. Leave it there. Or if you're over on Patreon, you can let me know in Discord. So thank you guys for the super chats. Make sure to check out our moderators channels. Links are in the video description. Joseph and Clark Fine Art both do live streams every week. And Nick occasionally uploads cool stuff like his recent, well, sort of recent, more recent than mine, digital painting. So definitely, he did his on an iPad, so you can see how cool that goes. And I will see you guys next week. There's probably more I need to mention. I don't know what it is, though.